No smoke, no smoke.
What's up? Welcome to All Gas, No Smoke. Those of you that are returning, welcome back. And those of you that may be new, I kindly ask that you like the video and think about subscribing to help a small channel grow. Next milestone for the channel is 500 subs, but let's jump into it. So this past weekend, we did had Unadilla, and it was an interesting race for sure. Now, that being said, as we always do, we have to start with congratulating our winners. So congratulations to Joe Shimoda and Jet Lawrence, both of those riders going 1-1 and winning the overall motos for this past weekend. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Let me get this on the screen for you here. So like I said, Unadilla was definitely an interesting race for sure. Dilla has some interesting terrain. It's rocky in some places, it's muddy in some places, it's slick in some places. So we'll talk about all of that here in a second. But you can definitely see that there was some riders, I don't want to say they were sandbagging, but they were definitely playing it easy, you know, knowing that next weekend is like the big race at Budds Creek, and maybe left some room for those folks that want to get some points there. And a lot of people, you know, thought that Hayden Deegan was going to wrap it up this weekend, but that was not the case, right? So Joe Shimoda put on a spectacular performance. This is probably the best we've ever seen Joe Shimoda ride, and this is probably honestly the best he's ridden in his career. So shout out to Joe Shimoda there, putting a 46-second gap on, you know, on the pack there in that first moto. So, and then also shout out to Hayden Deegan, because Deegan, people always like to talk about him when he's, you know, if you want to say being cocky or arrogant or anything like that, but people never give Hayden Deegan his props when he gives other riders their props. So shout out to Hayden Deegan for giving Joe his props in those post-race interviews. But yeah, so let's jump into it. So starting off with the 250 class here, we have Joe Shimoda, Hayden Deegan, Tom Vial, Seth Hammaker, Julian Beaumer, Garrett Marchbanks, Jordan Smith, Ryder D. Francisco, Nate Thrasher, and Levi Kitchen rounding out that top 10 spot for us there. So that being said, so Tom Vial, right, started off strong in the first moto. I was like, man, we haven't seen Tom ride like this in a while. Thought he was going to get it, but that just wasn't the case. Joe came around him, you know, and did his thing there. But I also want to say shout out to the KTM. So Beaumer and Vial both rode pretty good, and Kawasaki as well did their thing there. So like I said, Deegan gave Joe his props, right? And Deegan probably knew that, hey, Joe is out there by 46 seconds. I cannot make up this gap. There's no need for me to push it. If I push it and then I fall, I hurt myself, I'm for sure not going to get a title next weekend. So Joe and Deegan, they will battle it out in Budds Creek, which happens to be my home track back east. I'm from Virginia, so that's the closest track to us was Budds Creek. So that's dope. So we'll see Joe and Hayden battle it out next weekend. And you guys tell me, who are you rooting for? Now, moving on to the 450. So, 450 class. We had Jet Lawrence going 1-1, Hunter Lawrence, Eli Tomac, RJ Hampshire, Justin Cooper, Dylan Ferrandis, Malcolm Stewart doing his thing, Justin Barcia, Kyle Webster, and Valentin Gilliard. So, with the 450s, I also want to point this out, right? We had Ken Roxon making his return. Ken Roxon has been on the couch for months, I think, right? And come back and get a top 5 spot in the first moto. Second moto, he did not finish. It was due to some fatigue and pain he felt in like his foot and leg. So he did have to stop early, but you know, coming off the couch and getting a top 5 spot, shout out to Ken Roxon holding it down for us. Suzuki boys, Kickstart gang, right? So yeah, Moto 1, right? We had Jorge, or some people are calling him George right now, grabbing the whole shot pretty early, and he looked strong, right? Now, he ended up fading, right? Some people may say it could have been the bike. Some people may say it's the track, and others may say it's the conditioning. I'm leaning towards the latter. I think his conditioning is not up to par, but that's neither here or there. So once he did fade, Hampshire took his spot, but not long before Jet Lawrence pulled off some crazy moves that looked a little risky, but he made it work. And since when he passed him, he was in the lead. That was it. Like he was in the lead. Then Moto 2, you had pretty much Hunter and Jet. They battled it out for like maybe 7 minutes or so before Jet was probably getting hit in the face and arms and chest and everything else with rocks, and said, hey, I can't pass him, I'm gonna fall back. But they did battle it out, and James Stewart, he used I don't want to say a funny term, but an interesting term, but to describe what was going on. I'll let you guys watch the highlights and find that there, but it was definitely a funny term that he used for the rivalry between the two brothers there. So that one thing I also want to point out about Dilla that was like pretty good, right, is the drone footage. The drone team seemed like they were on it. Like for this weekend, it was particularly different. Like it was good. So shout out to the drone team there, right? Some complaints that the fans and riders had was that the track was poorly watered. It was, how would you say, rough or brutal in some spots, and then also very dusty. Now, I wasn't there, but you can kind of tell from the from certain places on the track that it was pretty dusty. So I hope next time, next year around, that they do something a little bit better for that. Another topic is, it sounds like there's some political stuff going on behind the scenes as far as sponsorship shakeups, contract disputes, and then also the controversial rule about raising the age where you can turn pro. So right now you can turn pro at 16. So you can move from 250 to 450 at 16. Excuse me. And right, some people are saying that now the new rule is going from 16. I think for 1 year it's going to be 17, and then after that you can't turn pro until you're 18. So some people are saying that, you know, this is the way that the sport is trying to control who's going to be, you know, the face of the sport, who's going to lead it, you know, and who's going to turn pro and control their money and their careers, so on and so on, right? But I'm gonna keep this short. So what do you think? Are we in a golden era, right, with Jet at the top, or is it turning more political, and is the politics causing a distraction and dragging the sport down? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, let me know where you're checking in from, what's your city, state, and your area code. And please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm out.